Okay, we're gonna hope and pray it's working. I really, really, really hope it's working. My computer is acting really weird. It feels slow, so let me know. Gosh, I feel like I need to try to like watch it really quick. I'm sorry. First things first, you guys, I am not at all good with technology. Like, I'm not. Secondly, live in a rural area, rural, so my internet is not that great. Thirdly, I've never done this before. I've never had a monetized stream before, so I'm nervous. So just steal. Okay, we're in the rough growing stages here. Let me just make sure. Hello, hello, my melody. Let me see if it's working. Is it working okay? This is so bad. Yes, I am doing Fat Scholar today. Just, for this stream. Yeah, I know. I didn't think I had so many hats. But I really do, as a YouTuber, hello Nightlight, as a YouTuber, we're just always wearing so many hats. It's just so difficult, have to be a director, an actress, writer, whatever else, businesswoman. I have to do it all, you know. You guys could almost see my alma mater. My alma mater. One of these days the sleuths will get it. I'm just kidding. Anyways. Okay, good. I'm glad it's working. So as you guys know, today I'm going to read comments. Now, I don't think this is a new camera. I just have better lighting, but I am kind of Viper bitch. Okay. We're just going to say it flat out. So just know that if you guys ever look over my comments and I'm being like a sassy, nasty queen in my comments when I'm arguing with people, just know that I do it because I enjoy it. I do try to tone it down, but most of the time I try to be nicer than I actually am. A lot of people don't get that. Hello, John. Hello, Real Melody. Oh, I already said Real My Melody and Kelly. Um, yeah, it's a feature, not a bug. Exactly. So just know that like I'm trying to be nicer most of the time, but I don't know what happened, but I just can't do it anymore. So no, I'm just kidding. That's terrible to say. Could you imagine? Look at this thing. This thing is gonna drive me nuts. This is reminding me of like a cat when I had a cat. But at the end of the day, we keep this on the right side because we're always learning. So that's why it's here. Oh my gosh. Okay, so obviously not most of my comments are or most of my comments are not hate or whatever, and we're gonna read a lot of positive comments because we're not gonna be like one of those YouTubers that's like, "Oh my gosh, the hate is just getting to me," and oh my gosh, like I'm not gonna do that because again, I don't play those games. I'm not that sensitive. This is giving me like a long hair simulation. I'm not liking it. Um, so, goodness. Also, just so you guys know, I go to the gym on Thursday night, and every single morning after I go to the gym, I'm even more a Viper bitch. So if you ever get like a harsh comment response from me in the morning, it's probably because I went to the gym the day before and I'm like nasty the next morning. But we love it. I'm just kidding. That's terrible. Okay. Okay, so let's see. How are we going to get started? So I have zero technological skills. Like I said, my internet is not that great. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to show the comments on screen. So because we're always in scholarship and we're learning. Oh, bot is still my mod. Bot is my mod. So remember bot. Most things go unless if it's like somebody's putting up someone's address or something. Like I don't want anything like that or phone numbers, anything like that. So that's and that too, yes. You know it. You know the drill. Anyways, I'm gonna keep it on the right side, Kelly, because I'm on the right side of history, okay? Anyways, so I'm gonna just go through the comments on my Q&A that I did. I You never graduate as a fat scholar because you're always unlearning fat phobia every single day for the rest of your life, okay? So, I'm gonna just read through the comments on my Q&A. It was pretty short, or not super long comments. Um, let's see. Okay, so Lindsay Bean says, "Thank you for answering my question. Didn't mean to jar you like that. So glad I got to hear your answer. I feel so grateful I found your channel and get to watch your progress. You're amazing. Thank you so much, Lindsay." So basically, that was in reference to the fact that she asked me like what my goals were after weight loss. And I had never actually considered it, which is kind of crazy. And I feel like a FA would hear that and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're such a loser. You're such a loser, Alex. Oh my God. You're such a loser. You're such a loser. I can't believe you only care about weight loss. Like you have no other goals. You need to work on your priorities. You need to do this. You need to do that." I don't care what they say though, because I was never in a delusion that being super morbidly obese, having BED was okay and healthy. So it was never my only priority, but it was definitely my top. And it's been such a long term goal for such a long time that it was weird to actually think about when it's over, which is fine. I mean, I'm going to be fighting this for quite a while. So, as far as like the fat acceptance rhetoric, I don't see it going anywhere really soon. I want to fight it very hard for a very long time. A lot of these FAs don't understand. If I could spend 15 years figuring out my ED and figuring out the diet that will lead me to lose huge amounts of weight, then I can fight them for like at least as long. Okay. Some of us are very, very persistent, is the word. Okay. So the other thing is I do have a personal channel where I go live a lot more often. That's called Graphically Gay. Not graphically gay, but graphically gay. Which, oh, sorry, I don't know, you guys. I don't know about the ads. I've never done this before. So I was trying to keep it like cool. I chose balanced. Okay. So we'll see. Goodness. I'm sorry. I'm not used to this. This is all new for me. This is like, this is the closest I'm going to get to OF. Okay. Anyways. So as I was saying, I do, John, for sure. So as I was saying, I don't even know what I was saying. I got distracted. Okay. So the next comment, congrats on doing YouTube full time. Yes, more videos. This is from Polish Dora. I was watching your old videos recently and you lost so much weight. Congratulations on that. You look much, much slimmer. You should do a reaction to the Secret Eaters TV show. Comments for stats. I should definitely. Oh my gosh, the male gaze actually. Oh my God. Um, yeah, I think for sure, like I am so appreciative that I was able to lose the weight. Like, it's been a long time coming. It has been such a struggle. Um, and I do wanna talk more about it because it's such a delicate thing when you have the ED and you have to, like, actually lose weight because you have to, like, do enough to where you're not gonna relapse or not gonna have a moment, but you still have to do something, otherwise you're not gonna lose weight. And so it's very tricky, but I'm very grateful and appreciative, and I'm appreciative of your comment, and I will definitely consider that show. Um, okay, and then oh, I was trying to say I have another channel called Graphically Gay. Gosh, that's what I was trying to say. So definitely check that out if you wanna see me go live more often. It's more casual. I'm usually in my pajamas. And, if you want, like, more tea, if you want more of, like, a holistic picture of who I am, that kinda thing, that's the personal channel. And, I do talk about weight-related things on that channel as well because I talk about it earlier than I would on this channel, basically. So anyways, so this person, Moodily Udily, they asked me about, like, what other genres or things that I've considered doing. Oh my gosh, yeah. Um, And I've talked about how I did attempt to do politics, or I tried, or I thought about doing it, but I didn't really have the passion for it. I did try to do astrology, but I had some issues with that line of work because I didn't like the pressure I felt to perform, so to speak, in that way. Like, I didn't like it. And just other types of genres, and other things that I've thought about. So they said, "Thank you for your long answer. I love it. I relate to it a lot too. I'm center left and my political views aren't represented well on social media. I can totally see that. Far left groups make me roll my eyes just as much as the far right does. And I'm in my 30s, so I know what you mean about losing passion for politics at a certain age." Yeah, so basically, I my views changed a lot when I started figuring out the thyroid thing, and I started losing weight and this type of stuff. And I just realized this was a much bigger issue than politics. It's been going on for so many more decades, especially since the 80s. It's been getting worse and worse, and it continues to get worse. And so, politics to me, it's very much with the time. It doesn't last. It's like the issues we talk about today will not be relevant in 5 years, which won't be relevant in another 5 years. But weight and this problem, it's always relevant. It's been relevant for at least 40 years. So I see it as a bigger issue. So that's why I chose this. Okay. I also have much more of a passion for this. So yeah. Um, then Mike Vasquez says, "My personal take is that astrology has no basis in reality." So that whole thing, astrology is really tricky. It really depends on who's reading it. I understand a lot of people don't believe in it. I don't really care. Like, I'm not going to hate on you if you don't. I do not give a F if you don't. I think a lot of times it really depends on who's reading it, who's interpreting it. They have to not have a bias. It's really difficult. If you don't have any talent for looking into astrology, it can be really hard to tell if somebody else is good at it. So I think a lot of people are misled, or they're told it's in too simplistic of a way. I talk a lot more about that on my personal channel. If you guys are interested in that, I won't take too long on it. All I can say is I totally understand why people don't. So let's go ahead and move on to the next video. This one, I know there's some sass on here because this one is the Jubilee is being fat a choice. Hello, Nina. Is being fat a choice? So I said it is a choice, and people were hella triggered. A lot of people are super triggered. I even made a community post about this. Okay, I agree. A lot of readers on TikTok and Twitter project, and yes, exactly. So you can tell if somebody's good at it or not, basically, if you know it yourself, but most people don't. So, anyways, um, okay, so people were hella triggered that I said that being fat is a choice. I literally made a community post about it because people are so threatened. They are incredibly threatened by that idea. I didn't realize it was that much of a threat. I honestly think it's because a lot of people like the body hierarchy. I think a lot of people, honestly, this is going to be really frank, but I'm just going to keep it a buck, okay? I'm gonna I've been watching Not David too much, so I've been saying keep it a buck forever, or I've been saying it a lot lately. But anyways, I'm gonna keep it a buck, and I'm gonna say I think a lot of people get off on it. I think there's this weird like tension revolved around the body hierarchy where people they want to like worship fit people and they want to be the lowly fat person. And so there's this very bizarre, like, this is my opinion, okay? There's this bizarre, like, backdrop to this discussion where it's like a lot of people, I feel like, I don't know, I don't know if that's what healthism technically is. It's like the worship of healthy people. Like, I have seen that, and I think it's really weird. One of my best friends, he's incredibly fit. You guys have seen him on this channel. And he has always told me, like, being fit is not like a superhuman thing. He's like, most people, the vast majority of people have access to it. And it's really just about effort and time and this type of thing. So he's very confused by it. I'm confused by it. I think a lot of people, they feel threatened by the idea that the vast majority of people can become fit if they choose, because it is a choice. And so then people say, well, it's not a choice. It's not, it's this, it's that. No, and we'll get into the comments. We'll get into it. Okay, we're going to get into it. I love how I'm trying to act like I have hair. Yes, I'm studying fat scholarship. No, I am technically a fat scholar. I have almost 30 years of experience of being fat. So my program has lasted drastically longer than any PhD, oh my gosh, PhD program. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to put it on newest first. This one has more comments, obvious. So let's get into it. So, okay. Yoked Nick says, really enjoy your channel, calling it like you see it. Thank you so much. Mike Vasquez says, it would be more accurate to say obesity is a consequence rather than a choice. It's a caloric surplus. So I would say I can definitely agree with that. But when we talk about choice, I think there is this fallacy of free choice. Now, I talked about that in my video where I said, I don't think free choice when it comes to big decisions actually exists. So, especially life defining, life changing decisions, something like getting married, something like having a child, something like going to college, something like moving to a different country. These are all choices that are not ever actually a free choice, in my opinion. Now, we will get into a comment where they were talking about free will. They're like, well, what's the difference then? And they really thought that they had me. Okay. That's one thing about people on this thing. They really think they got you. Okay. A lot of the time. Oh, by the way, thank you guys so much for liking up the stream. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Okay. So let me just find that comment since I'm already on a tear about it. Where is it? I need to think of a system. Okay. So I won't say your name because I'm gonna be probably a little shady. But somebody said, so what's the difference between free choice and free will? Fat and thin are not choices. Lifestyle, nutrition intake / education, the amount and efficiency one moves are a choice, but how your body responds is not a choice a person has any control over. Okay. So that's the first paragraph. This person really went on a tear. So, what we'll say is this: free choice is what I told you. The idea that you can make a decision with zero pressures. I don't think that that exists when it comes to big life questions. Free will is different. Free will is what we do in response to those pressures. That's the difference. So, you don't have to not be pressured to have free will. Somebody can tell you, I want you to go to college. Your mom can be like, you have to go to college. You have to go to college. And they can drill it into your head every single day of your life, but you still have the free will to say, I'm not going to go to college, mother. That's the difference. So, was it a free choice for you to go to college or not? No, because you had pressure to go to college. But do you still have free will to not go? Absolutely. And that's the difference. And that is relatable to obesity. It's not a free choice, but it is free will. You can choose to go against the grain. You can choose to swim upstream. In a lot of people's circumstances, it is swimming upstream. But things like poverty and hormone health, they do not determine obesity. We're going to get into that too, because they are really on one about poverty and obesity. Poverty does not cause obesity. That makes zero sense. You cannot eat more if you cannot afford it. That is so dumb. It is like so dumb. So, yeah. Bot says it's not easy to stay thin for most people. And then VL says free will does not explain outcomes. Yes. Okay. So let's continue. The comment keeps going. Thin doesn't mean good choices that guarantee health, and heavy doesn't mean lazy or poor choices guaranteed to cause illness. That's not true. So if you are obese, it does cause illness because, again, we talk a lot on this channel. It is hormonal. Obesity is a hormonal issue. Obesity increases hormonal problems. Obesity can cause hormonal problems that didn't exist because primarily obesity and fat increases estrogen. And if your estrogen is increased, it affects your other hormone balance. Estrogen and thyroid hormone are opposed. So if estrogen goes up, your thyroid hormone goes down, or the expression of that hormone goes down. So by the very act of having the fat on your body, it is putting you in a more hypothyroid state. Now, it does get a little bit more complicated when we look at something like PCOS. Women that have PCOS, their estrogen levels fluctuate a lot and it's a little bit different. But as far as I've seen, and I could be wrong, this is where it's on the right side. Women with PCOS, there's a high correlation of hypothyroid issues with PCOS. So I don't think that it's totally irrelevant to PCOS either. Anyways, okay. However, many illnesses do have obesity as a symptom. Yes, that's true. Working out is important if someone out there is intensely working and strictly limiting their calories like I did and not losing weight, tone it down. That dumps cortisol into your system. Too much cortisol causes weight gain. It's totally valid to forget about weight and focus on maintaining healthy daily routines. Okay, so this is not exactly true. Cortisol cannot cause weight gain alone. Cortisol, what it typically does is it will increase sugar cravings or it will break down muscle and turn it into fat if it's very elevated for a very long time. But regardless, you still have to have an excess of calories to gain weight. You cannot gain weight without eating. Okay. If you have high cortisol and your calories are too low to gain weight, your muscle will break down. And again, that can cause weight gain to be easier over time. It can also put you in a more diabetic state. There's a lot of issues with having high cortisol. I agree that overworking out is not good, but there is no such thing as a hormone just flowing in the body and making somebody super morbidly obese. That cannot happen. It can increase your cravings, it can increase your desire to eat, but you still are eating. And caloric realism is extremely important to keep in mind, okay? Hello. So it's extremely important, okay? We need, listen to the fat scholar. Caloric realism is extremely important, okay? Anyways, FYI, you're only partially right about why poverty is tied to obesity. So what I said in my video is that what is more likely the connection between poverty and obesity is that when you are impoverished, there are times when you have food insecurity. And that food insecurity can cause psychological damage that will lead a person to binge when they have more money. Because people who are impoverished, you don't always have the same amount of money. Money is not a static thing. There are years where you do better, there are years where you do worse. And that's the same for poor people and for impoverished people. So you have to consider that that psychological effect is much more tied to it. Because what happens is people don't eat because they can't afford it, or they have to eat less than what they want because they're too poor. And then there's times where you do better. When you do better, then you binge. And that can make you gain weight. Other than that, I will say poverty can be a barrier to weight loss, but weight loss, weight maintenance, and weight gain are three very different things. And poverty and weight gain just do not correlate. They do not correlate. You cannot gain weight if you cannot afford the food. Once again, caloric realism. People, caloric realism, super important. I have PCOS, and definitely when I was obese, I had more hypothyroidism. Yes, thank you, Goblin. Bot says, I think most the cause of weight gain is cravings from hormone and brain chemicals. Absolutely. Absolutely, and you have to have enough money to overeat. So, having some money too. Um, Caleb says he relates. Caleb says, "It wasn't my choice to buy the chips in the home, but it was my free will to pour myself a bowl and eat them." Oh my gosh. Hello, John. John is still here. "When I got money after not having food, the last thing I was thinking about was health." Exactly. Exactly. That's the correlation. Gosh, these people have so many I think they've assumed I've never been poor or something. It's not true. I can tell you that. No, 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 no. I gained most of my weight when I was firmly middle class. I think obesity is it's largely a middle class issue. Largely. Maybe even lower middle class, but you have to have some kind of disposable income to eat more, especially if you're going to drive-throughs and this kind of stuff. Like, nobody totally impoverished can afford to go to drive-throughs every day. I'm sorry. Like, no, it's expensive. Anyways, so this is what else they said. The other part you're either ignoring or just don't know is flour and butter are cheap and stretch a meal enough for everyone to survive. So I think that this person believes that flour and butter inherently cause weight gain, which is not true. Also, flour and butter cost money. So even if it's less money, people do not get eating in excess of calories. It costs more. I'm just saying that eating more flour than is necessary to survive when you're in a survival state of poverty, it costs more than eating at maintenance and typically eating a little less than you want is what happens. Meals are skipped, days without eating are skipped. It's just not conducive to weight gain. It isn't. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Okay. Vegetables and education are luxuries. So by the time you do have enough, you've shot your hormones, and it's so incredibly hard to have a doctor take you seriously. The choices we make are the best we are able to with the conflicting nutritional information we have available. Miseducation is huge in terms of obesity. Absolutely. That we will agree on. Um, Vegetables and education being luxuries. I guess, I don't think vegetables are the utmost be all end all of weight loss. They're they are kind of a luxury because they're not that helpful on a hormonal level. If we're talking about things like asparagus, yes, it's beneficial, but if or carrots or potatoes, yes. But if we're talking like salad, it's not that helpful to lose weight. It just isn't. It really isn't. Um, okay. True, if you eat the cheap foods in less amount, you'll actually save more money. Yeah, you have to eat less. I'm just saying. I don't eat fruits and vegetables unless it's on a BLT. Oh my gosh, but that actually sounds really good. Anyways, I'm just saying it's not the be all end all. The be all end all of weight loss is calories. That's the be all end all. Caloric realism. I should call this stream caloric realism. Okay, so that's enough for that comment. So I'm going to go through some more nice comments. Mike Vasquez says, I would have been a super villain had I been on this panel. Me as well. I probably would have worn the witch hat if I was on that panel. In fact, if I ever go on Jubilee, I might just wear the witch hat just to be extra as F because I'm going to be in combat mode on that for sure. Violet says, I hate Jubilee, but I love you, so I'm here. LOL. I'm going to heart that comment. I should have hearted it. If I can make you grin and bear something that you don't like, that's love. I'm just kidding. Existential Gamer says the whole quote, I should be able to eat XYZ because skinny people can, unquote, is a childish mentality. Yes, very much so agree. I used to get grumpy about it too when I was younger, but life isn't always fair. Facts. I have PCOS, and so sugars are very bad for me. Yep, I agree. It's tough. Insulin resistance is major in PCOS, and you do have to monitor it yourself, I had to accept this and come to terms, not be petulant and spite eat gummy worms, which only hurts myself, so not the own these people think it is. Yeah, I could see that. I've noticed a difference in thinking in the obese people, this idea that they have no control, that fat just happens to them, a kind of learned helplessness. Yeah. So I agree pretty much entirely with this. I know this tassel is alive. It is going to it's gonna kill me. I agree. Anyways, so I totally agree that with the whole comment. I think in terms of carbs, we all need different amounts. I think it is so ridiculous the way that diet culture promotes one set of macros for every single person. I have talked a lot about how sugar has benefited me on this channel, but I have a very active lifestyle. I'm male, I don't have PCOS. I go to the gym, I walk all the time, I have a physical job, so someone like me eating sugar, it's giving me the energy that I need to do all these physical things that I'm doing. I'm also in a deficit. I get enough vitamin C, I have a balanced diet, I have more caloric leeway than most women because I can eat around 2,200 calories and still lose weight. So that gives me a lot more calories where I sometimes need sugar because it's cheaper. So I can bolster it and get it up there. But I still make sure I have my meat, my dairy, my fruit, or, vitamin C, all the other nutrients covered. And then I would have sugar in tandem with all those things. I would never advocate for somebody to eat only sugar, especially if they're incredibly um, sedentary or, to eat anything in excess is bad. And if somebody has PCOS, then you have to balance that. You have to see what works for you. If certain foods or certain carbs work better for you, then by all means. If eating less carbs works better for you, then by all means. I'm not here to police somebody in that sense. I will police a prothyroid protocol where I say, do not eat those damn seed oils and make sure that you're taking care of your thyroid and it's balanced. I think you should eat some carbs, but the quality of the carbs, what you're eating, and how many, it's up to you to find the correct balance. And nobody can tell you that. You have to find it yourself. Um, I don't know what that is. Oh, your caloric expenditure bot. Goblin Mode says, I'm finding that small amounts of sugar in the right context actually help me, even though I have PCOS, but I'm also pretty active and tall for a woman. Exactly. You have to see it for yourself. I'm never going to get on here and be like, you have to eat this amount of macros. I think that is dumb. I think that is one of the dumbest things about diet culture. For me, I need a lot of carbs. I do. I have to have a high carbohydrate diet. I don't have like an 80-10-10 or anything by any stretch. It's more like a 60, or 70-30-30, or I don't know, whatever. I can't think. Maybe like, I think over half of my calories are carbs. And then the protein and fat is like somewhere. And I have a little bit lower of protein calorically. But again, I have like 2,200 calories to work with. So for me, eating like 1,000 calories of meat every single day, it wouldn't actually satiate me because I do need fat and I need carbs to feel satiated. So if I feel starving to death every day, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to not eat carbs because it makes somebody else feel better. You know, it's like you have to do what you need to do. By the same token, if somebody needs to eat less, I believe them. I do. I just don't believe people need none. I think that can be an issue. But again, I think that that's the problem with all diet culture. The whole like, let me cut out an entire food group, it's very BED coded. It's very BED coded. Yeah, so Ivy, I would suggest incorporating exercise to bring it up a bit. I know it can be tricky, but I don't know how big you are, so I can't like make any assumptions, but if it was my situation and I had to eat less than 1,200, I would try to exercise and build muscle to kind of get the metabolism up a bit. So that's very challenging. And I acknowledge how challenging that is, you know? Um, okay. Anyways, my blood sugar was 60s to 70s on dumb keto. I felt like shit. Yeah. A lot of people do. Becca says, do what makes your body feel good, that you can keep consistent. That's going to be very from person to person. Keto is 100% the only way I was able ever to lose weight, but it's not for everyone. Yeah, I think it really depends. Like I said, I can't ever suggest keto. And that could be because I had a really horrible experience with it. I definitely did. I think there's, there's things that I've learned from every diet I tried, and one of the best things I learned from keto is that saturated fat is not bad for you. That was like or that you can lose weight eating saturated fat, which that has definitely helped save my life, honestly. So I'll always be thankful to keto for that. But I do think there are a lot fewer people that benefit from keto than is thought, you know. But again, I'm not going to like erase somebody else's experience whatsoever. So, because again, like there are always going to be people who are different, you know? Yeah. Yeah, it is tough. It's very tough. Um, Even 30 minutes a day of exercise can help you increase your TDEE. Yes, I agree. Goblin says, talking to you made me think I was over consuming protein and deficient minerals. That's part of why I was so ungodly hungry. Yeah, when I think too, people don't understand that fat and carbs also they contribute to metabolism, metabolic health, hormone health, all these different things. When I was keto, my hair started becoming thinner and it never quite recovered, you know, um, because your hair does need some kind of carbs. And it could be that some people who are keto they have a much easier time converting protein to carbs, to the amount of carbs that they need. Whereas, like, I have a fatty liver. So it's very difficult for my liver to convert that protein to enough carb. Whereas someone like Becca, she might be totally good. She might be fine, you know? So we do have to acknowledge some genetic variance here. It does exist. Maybe her body can convert the meat that she's eating to carbs in the exact perfect amount that she needs. That was not the case for me at all. So I think people don't look at it holistically either. Like, what is the state of health of that person's body? Hello, Sin. My heart rate was real high on keto, I think from low blood sugar or maybe low electrolytes. It's possible. It's very hard to get electrolyte balance on a keto diet for some people. Melanie says, just basic calorie math has benefited me greatly. It was hard to start, but now my scale, phone, and watch do 99% of the work. Yes, pretty much. And also getting into routine really helps. I would think, honestly, I will say this in general. I think the vast majority, I don't know if you are, but I'm just talking about, I think the vast majority of super morbidly obese people, SMO, as I call it, are going to have to count calories. I think our system is too fried a lot of the time. So I think it's important for a lot of very, very, very big people. Now, people who are not as big, like maybe just obese or maybe even morbidly obese, they might be able to lose enough weight, not counting. In some cases, I've seen it occur. But I think when you're like really big, you're probably going to have to count. I think that's just okay. That's just part of it. I've lost 90 pounds of fat since summer of 2022. So that's 90 pounds of fat pounds. And I've gained around like 12 pounds of muscle or something like that. So that's what I've done so far. And I've kept it off, which is really important in terms of, you know, BED recovery. Because it's really common for people to gain and lose mass amounts of weight when you have BED. And I had that happen. And when I was keto, I lost 80 pounds and gained it back twice in the same year, which is so bad for you. So bad. But that's ED behavior. So yeah. Love that for me. Super love and light. Becca says, yeah, I have friends that felt terrible in keto while I was thriving. Yes, exactly. Um, I think the thinner you get, the more important cows get because a small amount of extra makes a bigger difference by percent. That could be true. I think up to a certain point for sure. And then if you want to lose and get like really fit or something, you might have to count again. Yeah, I agree with that too, Caleb. Underweight people can also benefit from counting calories. I agree. Okay. So another thing that people freaked out in this video was the whole like, there's no way she's eating only grapes and lettuce. I think that it's so funny. So for me, as somebody who has had BED, I hate saying that. It's so awful, but we have to talk about this because I get that there's a stigma, so I'll take the L. Yeah, it is kind of like it's making me like um so I think people don't believe that she's only eating grapes and lettuce. I do because I've had that thing, okay? I don't believe she did it for that long. I think realistically, she probably did it for 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months. That's what I said in my video. I said maybe 8 months at the longest, okay? And then after that was over, she probably binged, okay? So that's what happens. You have a way overly restrictive diet, for whatever reason, and then you whoosh, then you do it. And that's how people gain weight because you fry your metabolism in the restrictive phase, and then you be and gain. Okay. So that's important. And people don't understand that that's how this works. Okay. So when I heard that, I believed her because I've done crazy stuff like that. I have. I mean, not for very long, but anyways, let me see. Um, so a lot of people said that a lot of people on that panel had an ED, and I kind of agree. Um, Let me see what else. I'm gonna have to go through this a little faster. Yes, pizza, new hat for the fat scholar today. Yes, I agree, Ivy. I know it needs to be talked about. I think a lot of people in FA have it, and there's very common signs like the secrecy aspect, that's a huge part of it. The constantly having different diets, that's a huge part of it. Some of the mental health aspects are also a part of it. It's very hard to be mentally stable when you're like in that state. It's so difficult and it does lead to hypothyroidism. Pretty much all EDs lead to hypothyroid symptoms because you're not getting enough nutrition or like taking care of your body. I mean, let's just keep it real, right? Um, I think they did, Hannah. Honestly, I do think they stacked it with those types of people. And Jubilee has a history of like every single thin person they have on there in these discussions, they're like, I had a restrictive ED. I wasn't eating. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. And I'm just like, I don't think that that's like every single thin person in the world has not eaten. I think it's ridiculous. It's totally selection bias beyond. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure, Becca. I'm just reading through the comments. I agree, blank space. Remember the thing I found that showed the higher your BMI gets, the less dopamine in your brain, the less dopamine, the more cravings. Yes, that's true. That's very true as well. I for sure had BEG, but I didn't have the secrecy aspect because I thought it was funny. Yeah. Honestly, it's better to not be secret. So I would say one of the first steps in recovery is to tell people how much you're eating because that's what helped me. I would sit with my friend, I'd go to a restaurant and I would tell him, I'd be like, I'm going to eat what I want. I know it's not good. I know why I'm fat. Just saying these types of things, it helps you like restore a realistic view on reality. And to not hide it helps as well, because it can also show other people what's going on. Because secrecy, EDs thrive in secrecy. So it's bad. It's really, really bad. And that is such a common thing. And I definitely have been that person, you know. So I would say that's probably one of the first steps is to just be honest about it. You can't just stay there, like, you need to continue beyond that point. But I think that's, like, one of the very, very first things I did. Yes, I agree, Tina. Even this close to goal weight and 4 years in, I track my calories in an app where my boyfriend can see it because secret eating is a big prob. Yes, it's huge. It's so huge, and it's just, ugh, I'm definitely beyond that point personally where I'm okay. But I tell you guys, like, I'll put on my channel, I'm not in a caloric deficit, like, in the winter, I'm not a lot of the time, and I will just say it flat out, you know what I mean? Because I try to keep things transparent. It doesn't mean that I'm binging the whole time, it just means I'm not counting and I might be overeating a little bit, which there's a big difference. Okay. So the other thing that people tripped out about is when Madeline said that she is average weight. So that was really cringy to me. Like, she's obviously very big. So this person, Yaya, says, how is Madeline not embarrassed? Just because she's at an average weight doesn't mean it's healthy for her. Shake my head. I don't understand how someone can be this delusional in public. Are they so into this FA loophole they deny reality? It's really scary. I can tell when she said that Dominic is not buying it. His face says it all. The cringe is off the charts with this one. Yikes. Totally agree. That was so cringe. And Cherish says, I don't want to be ableist, but Cambria is able to have a better relationship with food. I understand she has some physical problems, but food management is in reach. Yeah. So Cambria, I believe she's the one that's disabled on the panel. She has, I can't remember, it's like CRPS or something. It's like a nervous system issue where she has like pain, and then she has lupus. And I don't know everything about lupus. I know that lupus can cause weight gain in the sense that they give you steroids to deal with the inflammation, and that can cause weight gain. So that is valid. However, obesity does make it worse. It does. So it's a really tricky place in our medical system where a lot of interventions can lead towards obesity, and obesity still makes the problem worse. So you really have to find that balance. And I'm not saying that, I'm not the kind of person that's like, we should be fat shaming everybody in the streets and da 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 da. Da. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is there is no way we should be normalizing obesity. We should not be saying it's okay. We should not be doing any of these things. It doesn't mean that some people will not always be obese, of course. And maybe there are complicated situations like lupus, but to project that onto every single person, and for some reason, it's so heavily focused on women. Like, my gosh, some of these people are so invested in women being as fat as possible, which again, it's probably in some cases, especially within, heterosexual men, it's probably a little bit of an fetish. So be very careful. Do not destroy your health when somebody is pushing you down that path. And I think in some cases, other women do it because they're jealous and they want to lower the competition in the field. I mean, we gotta you know, no, I am never going to be like, you women, you should just be fat. I am never going to say that. This channel will never say that. I will never say that ever. Okay. I think it's horrible. I do not think you should. If you cannot all avoid it, you should. Okay. That doesn't mean you should dive into an ED and all this crap. That's not at all what I'm saying. But again, it's just constant black and white thinking with these people. Constant. Yeah, pretty much, Hannah. That might not be a bad idea because honestly, I think that that could be a part of it. Tina says there's a lot of reality denial and fat liberation. Reality, double knee replacement in my mom after a lifetime of being overweight. Yeah. It's just so bad. It's like, come on, you guys. Like, does obesity increase risk for all diseases cause like inflammation? Obesity does cause inflammation. So yeah, anything inflammatory related, it does make worse. It might not cause it, but it will, as I said, it will fan the flames of whatever it is. It makes it worse. No matter what issue you have, obesity will make it worse. Even having BED. BED in and of itself is a mental illness, but if you're obese in tandem with it, it makes it worse. It escalates it. That's what people don't get. Sin says most of the meds for immunosuppressants and anti-rejection does cause weight gain in most people and is hard to get off of them. Right, of course. And so it's just important to balance your diet, maybe keep, just be aware of it and certainly don't go crazy. Because if it's easier for you to gain weight massively, then just be watchful of what you're eating. You don't want to just put on tons of weight if you can avoid it. And sometimes it's fluid, which is different. Fluid is different than fat. It's not as hormonally active. But it's like, if you're aware that you're on that medication, like just take care of yourself. Try to balance things the best you can and just do the best you can. That's all we can ask. Goblin says, I don't know what everyone is talking about with people telling women to lose weight. No one told me, not even doctors. And if I joked about my weight, everyone would say I was fine. I wasn't fine. I think a lot of these women, they live in the 2000s, and they don't realize that it's already been a whole decade since that time. I understand. I grew up in the 2000s. I know what it was like. It was very fat phobic. I will say it was definitely fat phobic. It was a little fat acceptancy too, though. It was kind of like a horrific combination of the two sides in the 2000s. It was definitely more fat phobic in the 90s, but it's like these people, they live in that time. And it's like, hun, we're in 2024. Like, it's not the same at all anymore. Like, it is not the same. Move on. Move on. Okay, so let's move on to the next video. I guess the stream might go a little longer. That's fine. We're going to go as long as we need to. Okay, so my next video that I did is I watched the Amberlynn Reid documentary, and I kind of talked about my experience with it. I talked about how much Amberlynn has BED. It's so blatantly obvious, especially as someone who has suffered with it, but many people do not understand. And so watching it, seeing the reaction of people, even Mr. Snowflake himself, he does not understand BED whatsoever. It is definitely one of the most misunderstood EDs, or probably is the most misunderstood, and it's the most common. So that's a huge problem. Huge issue, pun intended. So I'm going to keep talking about it on this channel. So a lot of people were concerned that she was triggering me to want to binge watching it. That's not exactly true. It was more so my circumstances in life. I've been really struggling financially. I struggle with my work. I know I have to change jobs, so I'm trying to change to YouTube. I was struggling with just other types of feelings and things in my life. It was more so my circumstances in life were triggering me to want to binge and use food as an emotional escape. Now, I shut it down. Again, I'm really deep in recovery. It's not that hard for me to say no, but I never want to eat just because of an emotional escape. And if I want to eat because it's someone's birthday, I don't care. That doesn't bother me. If I want to eat because it's Christmas, it doesn't matter. If I want to eat because I'm hungry or I'm really, really tired, that's different than I want to eat because I feel like trapped in my life. No, that's a never. Okay. So I think it's important. And every single person with BED, they're going to have to find their triggers and their limits and what works for them. That's what works for me. Is just making sure I'm not ever eating for an emotional reason, ever. That's like a hard line. And I was having the desire to do that in general. And the documentary actually stopped me from doing it because I saw how Amberlynn was and I was like, I don't want to go back to that. I can't go back to that. And it was really painful to watch. But at this point in my recovery, it was very helpful to keep me on path because I don't have certain health issues anymore or health limits keeping me vigilant. So I had to watch that to actually stay vigilant about the issue because sometimes as you get better health-wise, you have less limits and you feel like, what does it matter now? I can just do it anyways. And it's like, no, we're never doing that again. Never. So that's kind of what that was. So don't worry, like she was not triggering me at all. it actually helped me to see it play out, and also helped me see how unknown this is and how people really don't understand it. Becca says, I allow myself to eat over my allowance for the right reasons too, as long as I count the calories. Yes. Just staying accountable, and just acknowledging that it's happening. I think that's why I always say weight loss is a long game. It's over years of time. Don't think about it as like, I have to lose it all today. You don't. That's a very BEG mindset to be like, I have to lose all my weight this year. I have to lose all my weight this month. No, you don't. You don't. Calm down. Like, oh, thanks, Doris. The blank space says, random, your eyebrows are so pretty. If anyone tells you to change them, they're a demon, baby. Oh, thank you. Tina says, for me, it's reverse. I'm 5'6" and have been between 125 and 165 deaf when I was at high 150s. Doctors talked about losing 10 pounds. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of those types of experiences, they're seen as universal and they're not. They're not universal. It might be statistically more likely. We'll get to that with the next video. But just because it's statistically more likely as a woman doesn't mean that every single woman is going to experience it. Certainly not in today's day and age, But I do agree, or I feel intuitively that there is a sort of connotation where when you're already small-ish or smaller or like not as fat, people are more like hyper vigilant about your weight than when you're really, really big, in my opinion, because they kind of see you as a lost cause sometimes. I know that's harsh, but it's kind of a reality. Whereas for someone like Tina, they might be like, we can still save her. So we got to get on her. And it's like, like calm down, calm down. It's not, just a loose suggestion is good enough, right? That's how I see it, and you might even have been fine, Tina. You just have to see your body fat percentage. And women can have more body fat. That's also something people don't acknowledge. It's perfectly healthy for women to have more body fat than men. It's just a reality as well. Okay, let's see. So somebody said, Kyle said, very relatable video this morning. I know what it's like to be trapped in a bad situation where it seems like you can't get out. I watched Mr. Snowflake's video on ALR until he made his initial doc on Foodie Beauty, and just sent me down an even darker rabbit hole. I might watch that one next. But yeah. Doris says, which Doris is here. Waiting is just hard. I know I get super restless and almost panicky. Feeling out of control definitely triggers me. I'm in a waiting period and I'm trying to use it as a teacher instead of being a menace to those around me, wallowing in hopelessness and coping with food or overspending. I totally relate. Mike Vasquez says, this is why it's important for people to look at BED like drug addiction. Just like how DA is more about just the drug, BED is more than just the food. There's a major control element, and even when we lose control, we convince ourselves we are still in control. That false sense of control can paradoxically grow stronger as we get worse. That's true. With each thing we realize we can no longer do, we cling to the addiction or disorder and tell ourselves, I can still do this. Yeah. It's true. Your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Like the fatter you get, it gets smaller and smaller. It's really dark. And we've seen that with ALR's content. So dark. With everyone and everything we lose, we can tell, we crave it and yearn for it simultaneously and in equal measure is our poison blanket. I loved that. I loved that connotation or that analogy. I think it's a really good one. Deep down inside, we know it is killing us, but we cling to it because we fear letting ourselves feel the cold. We are afraid to just feel because we have convinced ourselves there is nothing good to feel anyways. Totally agree. It's major. I think that kind of goes along with any EG. But I feel intuitively, again, this is just a supposition or a guess that I have, a hypothesis, if you will. But I think BED is more about internal control and like more like Anna and stuff is more like external control. That's my opinion. Because for me, at least, and for a lot of people I know that have struggled with it, BED is more about controlling your internal state. and it can feel like a whirlwind inside. And that's my experience. I mean, you guys can let me know if you disagree. I don't know for sure, but that's what I feel like the difference may be. I responded and I said this. It's not the same as an addiction, though. It's in its addicting quality. Yeah. So I have an issue with people comparing ED to addiction because it's not the same. And I'll explain it in this comment. Um, so now there is such a thing as food addiction. Like we need to clarify, but there's a difference between food addiction and ED. They're two different things. So I said, I don't like the comparison only because there is a whole connotation with it. It's more like a toxic habit or a cycle. It's like a loop. That's what it is. It's like a loop. It's like a fixation. It's different. It can seem similar though. Once the cycle is broken, it's easier to stay away than an addiction. Ooh, just dropped my brush. Because I would have to choose to go down that path again, knowing what I now know. So that's a thing too with ED is most of the time we just do not know how to cope without it. And it's really about coping mechanisms. And we learn those coping mechanisms oftentimes from our parents. So it's really tricky to break down that generational trauma, so to speak. And so what we have to do is find a new way. And that can be really, really difficult. But once you find it, I felt emotionally triggered in my life, but I was able to say, no, we're going to go down this other path because I already had it. I'd already built that path in my brain. I'd already forged it, cleared it. So it's easier to stay away than like with a drug because that can be harder to stay away, in my opinion. Okay. I said most of the fight in ED is just stopping in the first place, which can feel so impossible because there is a feeling of nowhere to go or no solid ground to stand on. Once the path is cleared and paved, you can easily go down it again rather than the ED, and most people do. The real fight isn't getting out. Many people never do, and that's very sad. Addiction is more like you can be clean for years and then just go back. EDs are not like that because they are not actually a fun or pleasant experience. So that's what I think people don't get to. Like when you have BED, you're not actually enjoying eating that much. It's not about the enjoyment of the food. And I think a lot of people do not understand that. I always say, like, you can tell that you have BED if you'll eat something gross because you just have to eat. It's not even like that it tastes good. Like, of course, you'll have preference, but even if there's something totally nasty, you'll still eat it. If there's no other option, you will still do it because you have to eat. It's just that kind of thing. So it's not actually pleasant. And you often feel really sick, really bloated, horrible digestive issues. You just don't, it's not a pleasant experience. And I don't think food is as addictive as drugs. I just don't. So I don't like the comparison for those reasons. Okay, how can you tell the difference between BED and regular overeating? Okay, so that's a really good question. BED, it's cyclical, right? So oftentimes there's the restriction period, then there's the B, then there's the guilt and shame and self-flagellation section, right? So it's those three parts. So you go, I'm going to do this new diet. I'm going to do the Slim Fast cleanse. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do Weight Watchers. That's a really common one. I'm going to do Weight Watchers like Emerald Reed. I'm going to do Weight Watchers. You restrict, then you feel like you're starving to death. And it can be really fast, like in the case of ALR, or it can be like out over 3 months or something in the case of another person. The cycle can be long or short. But then what happens is you start to think about eating and it's like more plans. So you start thinking, okay, I'm going to stop at this time. What do I want to do? What do I want to eat? Blah, blah. And you start because it's overly restrictive most of the time what you're doing. And so it's not sustainable. I know. It is very much like a hair flip. It's very unsustainable. Then you plan, then you execute, and then you eat and eat, and that can last a long time too. For me, my cycles were like 3 months. Okay, so it was like 3 months of restriction, 3 months of binge, then 3 months of feeling like shit. The last part is I feel horrible. I'm gonna die. I'm ugly. I'm disgusting. I can't believe I did this. So there's also a self-hatred aspect. So if you're just eating and there's no self-hatred, then you're just overeating. You know what I'm saying? If it's Christmas and you're like, "Oh my gosh, oh, I'm gonna have like 3 bowls of ice cream." I don't know, whatever. That's just overeating. But if it's like, I haven't eaten carbs in 4 months and I'm gonna eat like 10 gallons of ice cream in 2 hours, that's the difference. Does that make sense? So it's very different. And then I'm gonna feel like crap after. I'm gonna hate myself and I'm gonna think I'm the most disgusting person in the world. Like, people don't understand that a lot of ED is SH, and it has to do with self-hatred, and there is an element of psychological distress around the shape of your body with all of them, and BED is no different. So that's really, really important. Yeah. So if there's no psychological aspect, then you're just overeating. If you don't hate yourself, if you're not feeling guilty, if you're not this, if you're not that, you're no, no. Anyways, okay. Okay. So, yeah, and then somebody said, "Heck yeah, Mr. Cardigan is a fantastic documentarian." And I just said, "When I see Cardigan, I think of Taylor Swift because of Folklore." Love that album. By the way, when I'm wearing my witch hat, I feel very folklore. I'm like a folklore witch in when I wear the hat. Although I could go to Reputation. I can always go there, but most of the time I'm coming at it from a folklore area. Okay, Becca says, "I ate so much stuff back then that I wouldn't touch unless I was literally at risk." Yeah, pretty much. I totally agree with you, Becca. Um, Let me see what you guys are saying. I'm sure I'm dealing with some transfer from alcohol to food. Yeah, it's tricky. And again, food addiction does exist. Like, it's just a separate thing, right? So you can be, it's just, it's not the same, is all I'm trying to say. Um, okay. When I used to get upset, I would quit eating. It's not good either. Yeah, I agree, Sin. What do you think about getting in habits of eating while watching TV? I don't think it's as big of a deal as people act like. That's what I'll say. That's my personal opinion. Okay, chips are bad too. Alex will probably tell you about the PUFA and the chips. Yeah, chips are bad. Typical conventional chips, they're seed oil. It's very harsh for weight loss. It's like, good luck. You're really sabotaging it with that. But if you make them yourself, like if you make it in beef fat or coconut oil or something, totally gooch. You're fine, and you're gonna be more full. You're gonna eat less. I love the hair flip of this. It's very giving. It's giving. Okay, how to tell your regular self-loathing apart from BED self-loathing, asking for a friend. If it has to do with eating. If you just hate yourself just because you hate yourself and there's no connection to eating, then it's not an ED. Then it's just self-hatred. So there has to be some connection to eating or lack thereof for it to be an ED, obviously. But that's like the easiest way to tell. Amber and Chantel have me convinced food addiction is real. Same with 600-pound life. Stuff is complicated. It is real. It's just not the same. And you can also have both at the same time. So again, people don't realize, like, someone like Amberlyn Reed, she's in a complicated tornado of problems. Amberlyn Reed, she has BED very severely. She probably also has food addiction, and she has extreme hypothyroidism, which I don't care what the doctors say, you can see it in her moon face is the full moon. It's crazy. She's so severely hypo, but they don't even tell her that. And it's like you can see it on her face. So that's another thing too. So she has all three. That's why it's always going to be so difficult, or at least in my opinion, it will be so difficult for her to lose weight because having those three issues, that's how you get mega huge, because you have so many compounding factors and you can. That's what people don't get. For me, it was not food addiction. It was just the ED. That was all it was. And then the ED damaged my thyroid and it damaged my thyroid system. And so then I developed hypo because of the ED. So it was like one leads to another. So I fixed the ED. Now I have to fix the hypo. That's basically what it was in my case. But some people can have all of it. You can have all of it together. It's awful. They're not separate at all. Yeah, I agree, Polish Dora. I agree. I was hypo until I had it balanced, then eyebrows, hair loss, of course, swelling in the neck. Yeah. It's real. Very real. Okay, let's move on to the next video. Oh my gosh, the super cheesy one. So I don't know, you guys actually really liked my latest fat acceptance TikTok reaction. Hello, Caitlin. Um, like if your self-worth is tied to how much you ate, that's an ED, right? It has to do with body image. So body image in combination with eating behaviors, in combination with self-hatred. Okay, so it's like really that. So again, no matter what you have, ED wise, you are gonna have moments where you stare in the mirror, sometimes for hours, scrutinizing your body. And when you have BED, you're really fat. So there is fat to look at in the mirror. You can be like, oh my gosh, this and and I got a little triggered because I have some loose skin on my thighs. And I saw it, and that was another thing that made me want to binge because it's still body image related. And even for me, I'm not immune. Gosh, where's my male privilege? I thought I wasn't supposed to care. I'm just kidding. No, but definitely it is more common in females, and I am like highly feminine, so it makes a lot of sense. But men can still have it, and it still is a thing. And there are plenty of men who do look at their bodies and look at fitness models and stuff, and you make these comparisons and you do all this stuff. So it's a part of it too. Body image is a part of it. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, it's self-worth, body image, eating behavior, basically. Let's see. Melanie says, I was addicted to caffeine and nicotine, but it's way easier to avoid than food temptation. I recovered. That's possibly true. Yeah. Now it's self-loathing. Yeah. Be careful, Melanie. Yeah, I would say it's definitely different. And of course, some people are going to have an easier time, like you said, Melanie, not smoking. I need to keep that in mind too. Like people's brains are different. So different pathways are easier for different people. And for me, the ED aspect was so severe, so much a thing. Like I can even be 4 years into recovery and still be triggered by a little bit of loose skin on my thighs. I mean, think about how insane that is, or like how deep that runs. So I have to be very careful. Whereas like drugs and stuff, it has never tempted me at all. Alcohol, same, never at all. So I do think there are obviously genetic differences in that regard. Oh my God, Goblin, that's so funny that you tried Peeps. I love Peeps. I wish I was sponsored by Peeps. I will take a Peeps sponsorship. I don't care if you guys hate me. I will absolutely do it. So call me Peeps. Anyways, coffee has caffeine that is actually a stimulant. Yes. And it can be very helpful in hypo because you're running too slow. But you can't be too hypo, otherwise it'll make you like really anxious and freak out. So you have to find a balance there. For me, it's very helpful at this stage. Um, it's Becca says it sucks so much to be caught off guard by the tiniest perceived flaw in your body image and then have to fight the urge to binge. Yeah, it's very real. So that was also a trigger. It wasn't Amberlyn Reed. It was like all these different things happening. And, there's mirrors in the bathroom. When you take a shower, you take all your clothes off, you catch a glimpse, and that can be scary sometimes. Now, luckily for me, I just deal with it, or I could deal with it, but it is definitely I'm not gonna lie. It was a trigger, it definitely was. Like, yeah, definitely a trigger. Love that. I love the love for Peeps. Oh my gosh, I'm finding my people. So many people hate them so much. Peep representation. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Anyways, since that I decided that coffee was one of my indulgences, I don't get to indulge in much because of the new kidney. I don't smoke. Also, I'm not allowed alcohol ever. Yeah. Yep. I totally could see that. Healing the cause of all these unhealthy addictions, obsessions is the real goal. Yes, it's definitely psychological. So definitely keep working at it. There's definitely hope. Okay. So let's look at the comments on we're fat. Of course we're cringy as fuck. Oops, I shouldn't have cussed. Whatever. Okay. So please break out the fat scholar. It has been done. So I don't know if I'll be the fat scholar for every single stream, but I honestly might be because I'm kind of living for this. It kind of gives me that little, you know, moment. It's kind of adding something to the stream. Probably really freaks out people that are homophobic. So I love it. Always got to be a trigger, you know? Got to represent. I'm just kidding. Okay. Anyways, that's just me being sassy. Okay. So, Gypsy Lee says, I cannot describe how irrationally angry I get and how much I hate this trend of I'm blah, of course, blah, blah, blah. I totally agree. I totally agree. Hate it. Is so cringy. I might have to do one myself because I hate it that much. So I'm thinking about I am gonna be doing some shorts too on my channel. Uh, but yeah, I do have a short plan for the eclipse day because I feel like people won't be watching as much. So definitely look out for that. Um, so I am gonna be doing shorts some of the days that I post. I won't always do, full on videos, but I do wanna do a wear blank. So, of course, blah, 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 just because I need to think about what I'm gonna say and stuff, but I'm thinking of doing one, but it would be more definitely, like, making fun of them, satirical, because it is awful. It is a horrible video format. It's really repetitive, and it's really annoying. Rep the people. Yes, finding my people. Exactly. Oh, nice, Sin. My mom would never buy us Peeps when I was a kid because she said they were disgusting. I'm telling you, Peep hatred is very real. There's a stigma. There's Peep stigma. And I don't care what people say. Peep season is from February to March. It's February and March of every year. And I will get Peeps because it's my favorite. So, but now I'm over them. I ate them enough and I'm like, I'm kind of done now, but still. We will all have the speed bag arm fat one day, Sin. I will consider it an honor. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I don't like any marshmallows other than the ones in Lucky Charms cereal. Totally get it. I can tolerate people that don't like Peeps, but I will still acknowledge Peeps stigma. Okay? Anyways, okay. So let's see here. Pizza Cheetah says, dying at responding to "Are you gay?" with "I guess," arguably gayer than saying "yeah." I'm very gay, like extremely gay. Okay, it's two other levels. Definitely. Like that's why my other channel is called Graphically Gay because I am very gay, you know, very much so. So, yeah, it's kind of extreme. And I get that. But yeah, of course I would respond with I guess. Of course I would. They exclude BED. Oh, a little snow fairy saga says they exclude BED as an ED. It's like they're ashamed. I think that they're in denial. I think a lot of them are in denial or they're keeping it a secret. People do not understand, or like a lot of people don't understand, it is secrecy. Secrecy in any ED is a thing. And these women are the same. Even though they're blatantly putting it out there saying, I tried all these unsustainable diets and all this stuff, it's like, hun, you have that ED. You're making it very obvious. Things like I sit down and I have to cover my belly with a pillow. That is kind of BED coded, and I see it. I know it. I've been it. These things are not signs of mental health. It's not okay. Because again, body image is a huge part of it. And then they blame everybody else. It's not society's fault typically. It has to do with childhood trauma. And unfortunately, a lot of people have childhood trauma. They have unresolved issues. It has to do with learned coping mechanisms in families. There's a lot of issues that run very deep. It is not the media. I don't think it's helpful to blame the media for it all the time. It's just a way to disguise the issue or not actually talk about the issue. The issue has to do with trauma. It's a trauma response. Get with the program, you guys. It's like, gosh. And I'm going to sit here and be like, hey, it's a trauma response. I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. It's not just the media. It is not. It just isn't. Okay. So let's see. Oh my God. The other thing that people tripped out about was the bike shorts under skirts. That kills me. It kills me because I forgot about that. Like, again, actual proof that I'm not a woman. I forgot that women wear bike shorts underneath skirts. But when I saw those comments, I was like, damn, I was like, I should have called them out on it, but I missed it. It slipped. My male nature showed and I forgot. But luckily, the girls were there and they let me know. And I knew, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so awful and so true. And then I thought about it. I was like, if I was wearing a skirt and I just wore my underwear underneath and nothing else, that would be really scarring. So I was like, yeah. So a lot of the girls were upset. And I was like, okay, totally valid, totally a thing, totally forgot. And I thought of all my girlfriends and I was like, yep, every single one of them. And I have a lot of girlfriends who are thin. All of them wore them. And I was like, that is so cringe that they would say that. So that one was a funny. Oh, and a lot of you guys loved. So Kyle says, quote, hyperbolistic. Sorry, but I'm stealing that. A lot of people love my hyperbolistic. I was so tired. It was literally like almost 3 a.m. when I filmed that. I was so tired, but you guys liked messy, tired Alex, so I might do it again. I see some women calling them safety shorts for obvious reasons. Yeah, pretty much. That's so you can man spread with the skirt on. Oh my gosh, but I hate skirts, but if I had to wear one, I would wear bike shorts. Yeah, I think most women would. Absolutely. I've always worn shorts under my skirts, even when I was very young and very thin. Yeah, pretty much. So I missed out on that one. Let's see. Somebody said I need merch with the word hyperbolistic on it. Also, I would 100% buy a shirt that says he was British, which was so weird. Look, am I in the wrong for not expecting a British man to catcall me in the middle of Alabama? Alabama? I was like completely shocked. I'm like, I didn't even know British people lived in Alabama, let alone that they're going to be gay. They're going to be gay and they're going to call me out and ask me for a BJ in a parking lot. I never expected that to happen. Like, I was thinking, because when you're here, when you're in Alabama, when you're in the South, you are the only gay person ever. And a lot of times there are gay people, okay? They are. But they're like really trying to be aggressive about it, okay? And they're just like, I got rainbow hair, I'm not a fan of the rainbow hair. I'm not. I'm gonna be honest, okay? I'm not. But it's there because there's a lot of Gen Z gays in Alabama, and they're just like waiting and itching to move out of the country or out of the state. I mean, not country. And they're just like, I have to aggressively wear 5 million rainbow wristbands, rainbow hair every second. I have to do all that, right? Here's the thing though. I can be a walking pride parade without even wearing rainbow anything. Because I'm telling you guys, this past December when I was wearing my hats and scarves, oh my God, people were like literally like as if I was like really, full blown, like going for it. I would have thought I was wearing like short shorts, a pride shirt that says F all straight people, you can go die. just because I was wearing a hat and a scarf. And then there were some people who were kind of like SJW-ish, and they're like, "Oh my God, I love your scarf." Like people had to virtue signal about it. They had to like, it was just, I was like, whoa, I am like the most polarizing person in the world. People have to love me or they have to hate me because I'm wearing this hat and scarf combo. And I was just like, look, it looks good. I am femme. I do not give a F. I will wear it, period. And there's nothing you can say that will get me to stop. But yeah, it was interesting this year. The looks. Because in Alabama, if you dress different, people will look at you. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a dress code in Alabama. Um, but I was just like, look, I don't care. I'm wearing it. Got it. Definitely, Tina. I mean, come on. Alabama is Alabama, like I love Alabama. I do. Like, I don't hate any state really except for California. And I'm just kidding. I don't even hate California. But it's just like, it's definitely more conservative, obviously. I am more so on the right for sure. That's probably why I can stand living in Alabama. I think if I was like super lib, I'd be like dying, and foaming at the mouth every day. But I'm Cali conservative. I'm Cali Republican, right? It's different. It's a lighter version. It's like a conservative light or, slightly right wing compared to Alabama. Alabama is like, like really like on it. You know what I'm saying? So in Alabama, wearing a scarf is like, whoa. If I was in California and I was wearing like, I could probably wear like a G string down the street and people wouldn't even care. It's totally different. But anyways, just keeping it a buck. Okay. Yeah. So I would say by Alabama standards, I would definitely be a centrist. Okay. Definitely. By California standards, gosh, I don't even know. They probably would think I was like the most radical far right person that ever existed. But that's, America is a big country. Yes, cool cat, diet right wing. That's totally accurate. I mean, hello, I grew up in California. It's a thing. Yeah, pretty much, but oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm sure they did, Caitlin. I see plenty of, I see lots of, I don't know, like in Alabama, there's a lot of like Confederate flag stickers on cars and stuff. And then there's a lot of like, I support Bernie. And, like people are just, there's like the fringes are like very, very aggressive with their bumper sticker game in Alabama. The libs here, they're like, they got to put up the signs and, they got to be like really aggressive with it. And, and then there's, of course, the far right that are totally all about it here. Right. And most of the people in Alabama, they're just right. They're conservative. They're more evangelical. They're more like, well, we got to be nice and we got to be appropriate. And, it's just that kind of mindset. It's not like radical, but it is like there is certain fringy people where they're like, I got to really blast it out, So it's just interesting. But I'm sure California is the same way. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of Trump supporters in California that have to be like super aggressive and put like a Trump one sign, bigger than a billboard in front of their house. When you're in like very polarized or very like politically homogenized places, there are people who react to that, So it's the same here. Roll Tide, period. Oh my God. I saw this one Instagram person. It was like an Australian making fun of Americans and they were like, Roll Tide. And I was like, I had no idea Australians knew about Roll Tide. I was like, what? I was shook. I was shooketh. I was shook. Okay. Because I feel like I live in the middle of nowhere, right? But I was like, whoa. So anyways. Okay. So everyone knows Roll Tide. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I love that. I love that, Caitlin. I love it. Yes, Doris, the in this house we believe. Yes. Yes. Um yes. And like I said, I've seen plenty of Cali houses where it's like, I'm a Trump supporter. Everyone must know in the entire world, right? So it tends to happen in these areas. I'm just like, I'm just over here being my diet right wing self, like living. That's why I couldn't be political because I'm not radical enough. I have to be like really, you got to be like really in lockstep. And I'm not. So it's like, no, like, I don't think, I don't know. Gosh, I'm just so glad I'm not in that anymore. Politics is horrible. I'm sorry. It just is. Anyways, okay. So let's keep going. So someone said, men are rude to fat women in public is actually true and not specific to catcalling or nightlife or what have you. Even in a professional environment, straight or bi men are more friendly to attractive women. It's a whole thing where it's hard to tell whether male friendliness has interior motives or not. Totally can see that. Gonna heart it. I would say verifiable for sure. Let's see. I'm glad you're covering this. I remember seeing it and wondering how I'd react to it. I reacted, in my opinion, cracked out at 3 a.m. and scarred by it. No, but it was fun. It was funny. It was actually funny. Like, I feel bad because they are actresses in the videos, and I do think they're talented. Like, I hate saying anything good about an FA. Ugh, don't make me say it again. That killed me. But I do think they're actually talented. I think their delivery was actually decent. So it was actually funny. I just wish they didn't use it for bullshit FA. It's like, use your talents for something good and useful and productive in the world. Like, please. And I feel bad because the acting industry is very fat phobic, of course. I'm never going to say that's not true. And so they feel like they have to do this movement and all this stuff. And it's like, I just wish they could just lose the weight, or, I wish that things were different. I just wish things were different. To me, it's like, whether you're fat or not, if you're talented, you should be able to get a role. But I'm not a Hollywood executive. I'm not on Broadway. I don't have any industry pull. And I think a lot of gay men are in those fields and they're very fat phobic. A lot of gay men are very fat phobic. So it's tough, So anyways, I feel for them in that sense because I do think they're talented, but shh, do not ever repeat that, okay? I think everyone is nicer to more conventionally attractive people. I agree with that. I do agree. Pretty privilege is very real. I'm scared to admit that I don't know Roll Tide. You need to be careful. I would not say that out loud. Oh my God, though. Oh my gosh. When the Bud Light thing went down, I was like, ooh, you would not catch me dead buying Bud Light in Alabama. I'm like, I don't want to get killed out here. Okay. Like, child. Never. I'll never buy it again. I'll never even look at it. I promise. I promise. I promise, Alabamans. I promise. Anyways. Okay. Okay, Andrew O says, yep, indeed cringe. Showcases people who did everything wrong and just hop from fad to fad without the consistency that garners sane and lasting results. Yeah, that's the VED thing. I think more people would be willing to talk about fat phobia if they didn't follow it. Yes, exactly, Becca, 100%. Okay, somebody said, Elise said, I was getting gas and dude rolls up to tell me he's an Italian stallion and let me know how many inches he is. Totally believable. I believe it 100%. 100%. Okay, and then we have some of the ones. This one was very interesting. Redundant Human said, you made me think when you said you were called as a fat gay man. Meaning, do you think if you were stereotypically attractive, physically fit, it might not have happened? So, no, I think it would still happen. It's just so much more rare because gay men are so much more rare. So, it's not really a thing. Like, in terms of like, if you were to compare the struggle of a woman with the struggle of a gay man, it's drastically more rare. Like, you have to think, like, for women, almost half the population is attracted to women. So most women are going to experience something like that probably like 100 times at least more often than a gay male, but you still will have experiences as a gay male, especially a very feminine one. It will still happen. It's just so much more rare. So it's like, I think it would have still happened regardless of if I was in shape or not. Um, but they said, I wonder this if it's a herd pack weakness mentality people have. Being a woman, I don't think it matters what size we are, but it was interesting to hear that a man that perceives another man weaker than him, it's okay to do. Because that same cat caller might be too intimidated to yell out at a strong, fit guy who might fight them. Or maybe it's not that deep. The human psyche fascinates me. Maybe said cat caller would be a cat caller to anyone. I think in the gay world, a lot of times gay men think that fat gay men are extremely desperate. And so they think that if they just say anything your way, and this can happen with women too, of course, obviously. Although I would say I don't think I don't think women are ever desperate for sex. Like I think it's always available, basically. Even as a gay man, it is. Like I'm just keeping it a buck. Um, it's like it's just different. So I think there are certain guys where they think like, "Oh, because you're fat, you should want to be with me." Like, especially the British guy because he was in shape, he was fit. And to me, it's like, I'm not a hoe. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just not. I'm never going to go give a BJ to somebody I just met in a parking lot. Like, that is just not my type of behavior. That will never happen, you know? It's never going to happen. So it's like, I think it's more so in that. So what I said as response is I said, obviously it's so much rarer, but there are far less gay men, so it makes sense. A lot of social dynamics do carry over from men to women to mass to femme gays, though. That's true. So we have a lot of the same social dynamics. So where you think of like men can have a tendency to be controlling over women, masculine gay men or more masculine gay men can have a tendency to be more controlling towards feminine gay men. So, like, I have a lot of experiences with gay men where they try very hard to control me. And the thing with me is I'm super, super, super feminine, like, as you guys can tell, but I'm not really submissive at all. It's really weird. I think because, I'm still a man at the end of the day, so I'm gonna have some male traits, and I'm just not. I'm not that submissive at all. Like, it's very low on the scale. So I find myself and there are plenty of women who are not submissive too, but I find myself constantly like, a lot of times I've had to battle with guys and be like, "You're not gonna tell me what to do, or you're not going to, tell me what I can say, what I can think, what I can you're not gonna do that." But a lot of gay men that are more on the masculine side, they have those same structures carry over. So, in that case, things like SA and harassment and these types of things, they also carry over in that world too. It's just so much more rare because as a gay man, you can just run away from all the other gay men and be like, I don't want to have anything to do with anybody. You could do that. You can't do that as a woman. You can't be like, I don't want to ever see a man again. You can't do it because men are everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's different in that sense. And there is that physical dynamic that is very different between men and women. So, anyways, this is what I said. A lot of social dynamics do carry over from men to women to mass to femme gays, though. My best gay friend is also femme, but in great shape and has dealt with harassment from other gay men. I would think it's just easier because it's more rare in general and there's less of a physical power differential. So that's true. But there are some gay men who are very small and short and skinny and these kinds of things. I'm not one of those. As you guys know, I'm 6'1" and like 295 pounds, right? Like that is not a tiny person. So I'm not gonna have that same feeling as a woman has, like a 5'2" woman. I'm just never gonna have that same feeling. It doesn't mean that I'm not in danger, it doesn't mean that something can't happen to me, but that is something we cannot ignore as a factor, and so it's just that kind of thing. Um, I've had so many men do S like that. I had 2 pull up on me and start making ooh, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, it's very real. Like, I will never tell a woman and be like, "You know what you're talking about. You're never catcalled." I'm like, "No." I think that there's plenty of experiences that pretty much every woman will have, pretty much, in that regard. Like, there's just no way. There's no way. Um, Tell him, Alex, I love that. Sin said, "I must scare guys. I rarely had that type of thing happen to me." You could have. You could have. It can happen. There's always gonna be exceptions to everything, absolutely. Yes, I'm 6'1". I'm not a shorty. I'm not a shorty. Um, I don't have the same feeling as a 5-foot woman too, yeah. Yeah. I have dealt with very little catcalling and harassment of this nature, and I wonder if it's partially because I'm so tall. I think it could definitely be a part of it. Definitely. 100%. So that was interesting. That was an interesting comment. And now let's get to the tea because I fought with a couple people. So this one was bad. So this person, I'm not going to say their name because I'm calling them out. So somebody said, men don't get told to lose weight as much as women. Saying it's a lie is very dismissive of their experience. So many women have the same experience of doctors dismissing their illness and just saying it's because they're fat. So what I said in response was, is the video, quote, "we're women" or is it "we're fat"? Is being a woman the same thing as being fat in your mind? Also, major bull on men not being told to lose weight. I've heard it all my life. I definitely have. Rightfully so, might I add. I'm not a woman either. I simply wish you weren't falling for the intersectionality in regards to weight. They tie fatness to womanhood to get you to defend their BS. Looks like it has worked. So there is this idea in a lot of people's minds from a FA perspective. This is something that has totally permeated society, that fatness and womanhood are inextricably linked, and they're not. Being a woman has nothing to do with being fat. Being fat has nothing to do with being a woman. They are not connected whatsoever. It's the same thing with race. But I think most people on the racial side, unless if you're deep in FA, understand that that's total BS. However, in mainstream society, they have tied being fat to being a woman, and they're not the same. So, to such an extent that if you were to say, I don't like fatness, a lot of people will think you don't like women. And that is so actually genuinely, oh, no problem, Becca. That's so actually genuinely sexist because that's ridiculous. Obesity is a medical condition. Being a woman is not a medical condition. Being Black is not a medical condition. So do not make those connections. That is actually bigoted. There's nothing wrong with being a woman. There is something wrong with being obese. It's unhealthy. So I do not like the comparison whatsoever. And I just had to say, like, the video said we're fat, not we're women. So isn't obesity more common in men, or am I wrong? It definitely switches. There's been trends where it was more common in men, there's trends where it's more common in women throughout different decades. I think it changes, but it is not a woman's issue. Like, obesity is not a woman's issue. It just is not at all. It's also not a racial issue. It doesn't make any sense. It does not apply to these things whatsoever. So it's very frustrating. My BF wears a small and was found to be pre-diabetic, and they told him to lose weight. Oh my gosh, that is scarring. Um, let's see. I'm gonna just skip over some of the comments. Yeah, and hearing that you are not a real woman because someone has small boobs and butt goes in with FA, and how they sometimes push down on thin women. Yes, I agree. And to me, it's like we can all have different preferences. Like, who cares? But it's like you don't have to bash somebody because they're not your preference. You can just say it's not my type. And I understand that, but I do think in the case of super morbid obesity or like morbid obesity, it goes beyond just like looks. It's much deeper than that. This is a huge issue and it should not be accepted, which is why I do not believe in fat acceptance. It should not be accepted. And I resent the idea that women should just deal with being fat. That is horrible. That is just awful. So then I had this kind of like white knight person come in, and then somebody said, it's not really a lie depending on which person is saying it. Women are known to be misdiagnosed more often than men, and overweight women even more so. This claim doesn't really apply to us men, but for overweight women, it is not that far-fetched. So I had a huge issue with this because first and foremost, I think a lot of people, they take statistical analysis. This is what I woke up to this morning, and I was a huge BITCH, see you next Tuesday to this guy. So if you want to see me be totally nasty to somebody, then you can look up that comment. Like I told you, there will be times where I'm the archer, hashtag Taylor Swift. But anyways, there are times when I'm ready for combat. And usually in the morning after the gym, I'm ready. And so for me, it was like, I hate how people take statistics that say like women are more likely to not be believed by a doctor. And they think of it as a universal experience that every single woman in the entire world is never believed by any doctor. And every single man in the entire world is always believed by a doctor. That is not true. A statistical analysis just means it can be statistically more likely, but that likelihood can be as low as 5%, even 1%. It's not a universal thing. I have a lot of friends, big shock, I know, but I do. And I have a lot of women friends. Oh my God. I have a lot of women family members. And this is what I said, because what they were responding to is when they said that they can go to the doctor and get for any ailment and be told to lose weight, which is, I just said it is hyperbole. I said it's hyperbolistic, which just means that there's some truth to it, but it's a huge exaggeration. That's basically what I said. So I wasn't even totally disagreeing with the women in the video. And this person is just too dumb to understand that. So I said, I guess they should have said we're fat women then, shouldn't they? So I really get frustrated when obesity is framed as a woman's issue. It's not. Even the women in the video were not making it a woman's issue. So stop. Just stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, I don't know. People are so weird because they act like you have to be, when it comes to women, they're like, you have to either be unwaveringly supportive in all forms at all times, or you have to hate women all the time. And it's like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I, as a gay male, one of the best benefits of being gay male is that you can just have no tension. Usually, I mean, relationships with women. You can just see women as they are. There's a side of women that I get to see that a lot of straight men don't, because there isn't that dynamic between us. And so it's one of the best things because you can really experience deep qualities of women, the humanity of women, etc., on a level that some straight men cannot, or they only can with like only one woman, because otherwise it'd be cheating, right? So it's like, I can do that all the time. So it's like, no, I do not hate women. I would never hate women, whatsoever. Oh, thank you so much, Shar Tuin. I appreciate that so much. Yeah, like, I mean, that being said, a part of loving women is criticizing women. Part of loving women is holding women accountable. A part of loving women is seeing them as they are, which means you don't demonize or angelize women. You just see them as they are. There are plenty women that I can't stand. There are plenty women that I love. There are even women that I maybe love and hate at the same time, like Taylor Swift. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I actually just love Taylor, but I love to criticize her too, because I know that she's a viper. I know she's a total bee. She's totally nasty, but I love her because I'm the same way. But I hate it when people overglorify Taylor. It's like, And I especially hate it when people are like, if you don't like Taylor, then you hate all women. It's like, Taylor is not all women. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing with like fatness. Fatness is not womanhood. Stop it. So, anyways, I said, these types of responses are very cringe to me. You act as if I've never talked to a woman in my life, have no overweight women in my family, would have no idea or empathy when it comes to women, would never listen to a woman speak. They literally act this way. And this is, I think it's a guy. I don't know. I can't tell. Oh yeah, it is a guy because it said us men don't understand. So I said, hint. It's not a universal experience to be told to lose weight at the doctor, especially now, like, especially in today's day and age. I said, get a clue. That's what I said. I know, Sassy Alex is evil. Uh, so, yeah. And then he said, it's not cringy. Just because they didn't say overweight women doesn't mean it's a lie. Should they be more specific? Yes, but it's not automatically a lie. First of all, this person doesn't understand what hyperbole is. Hyperbole is an exaggeration. I didn't say it was a lie, so it's an exaggeration. Um, anyways, then they said, and yes, it is a universal woman problem. Horrible choice of words. And not just about being told that it's because of the weight, but also things like period and mental health. And blaming symptoms only to those factors is really fatal because someone could have cancer without it being diagnosed. Look at the studies first because it's an actual thing. I said, no, it isn't. Are you honestly trying to say that no woman is ever believed by a doctor and that all men are automatically believed? You are a clown. Oh my fucking God. He says, read the studies before insulting others. You are being very unprofessional here. I said, try not to speak in black and white absolutes. Your argumentation is terrible. Laugh my ass off. Then he said, I didn't say no woman is believed by doctors. I said that women often get misdiagnosed just because they blame it on period weight and mental health. Those are two different statements. You just trying to put words in my mouth. I said, you said, quote, it's a universal woman problem. Universal. Anyways, I said, anyways, I'm done responding here. You're wrong, cope. And then he said, changing the topic is terrible argumentation, sir. And then he goes, okay, Karen. And I said, okay, bigot. Because the thing is, I think it's bigoted to view people or treat people differently based on if they're a woman, based on if they're gay, based on if they're a different race, etc. To me, that's bigoted. And it's like, you cannot view, especially obesity and the doctor. Like, I was not diagnosed correctly, and I'm male. I was told that it was just my mental health, and I'm male. You cannot say that all men are in the clear. It's not exactly a gendered issue. I honestly think it's just because most men don't go to the doctor, or they go drastically less. Or when they go to the doctor, they're either likely to completely disagree and not go at all, or they're likely to completely agree with the doctor. Most women will go to the doctor much more often, and they're much more likely to argue with the doctor. I mean, let's just keep it real. A lot of women are much more ambivalent towards the advice of a doctor than men are. Men are going to be like, I completely trust you, doctor, or I completely don't trust you. That's just how it is. And it is a gender difference. It's a sexual, difference. Men have more gray matter, women have more white matter. It's like men are more black and white thinking, women are more nuanced gray area thinking. It's very clear. And it would be statistical and generalizations and blah, 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 blah. Right. So I think it can correlate to a lot of women feeling like they're not listened to, but I think most people are not listened to at the doctor, period. I'm not a Scorpio, Emily, but I do have a Scorpio rising. I love that you asked that. So for me, it's like, stop trying to make this about being a woman. Stop buying into their BS because they're a woman. It's not helping them. It's hurting them. It's not helping. Like, it kills me to my soul that these two talented, beautiful women are wasting their talent. They're wasting all this stuff on this BS. and promoting this crap. It's horrible. It's horrible. I wish nothing but the best. I wish that they could have very happy, fulfilling lives and be more constructive and work towards better, more noble goals than this. This is a horrible goal. And no, I'm not going to buy into it. So let's read some of the comments here. There's so many overweight people. Of course, it's common to have doctor to tell people to lose weight. Yes. Unprofessional. Yes, Caitlin. My guy. What channel do you think you're on? Yeah, pretty much. Yes, thank you, Tina. You don't get taken very seriously if you're thin too, because doctors think there's no way there's a problem. Totally. It can happen either way. It's not universal. It is not universal. It's just maybe statistically more significant. It's just crazy. And again, like there's a lot of women in my life that have never had an issue with the doctor, and there are women in my life that have. You know, it's like I never listened to a woman tell me, "My doctor didn't believe me." I'd never be like, "You're a liar. You're wrong. You're crazy." I would never say that to somebody. And again, I've had male friends, I had myself that have not been believed by a doctor too. Or that were, you know, like I said, in my case, it was misdiagnosed as anxiety. You have anxiety. You have anxiety. Oh, you're anxious. No, I have a horrifically severe ED and I have hypothyroidism. That is a horrific misdiagnosis. It's really bad. And I am male. Still checked, still looked between the legs, still male today. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like, come on. You know, you could say, well, maybe it's a more feminine thing. Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. It could be a personality trait. I don't know. You know, I have a lot of cutthroat women in my family. I'm not surprised. You know, they're willing to fight with the doctor like nothing. You know, it's like women in my family can be a little intense. Okay. So maybe that's why I see it a little differently. But yeah, you know, unprofessional has me rolling, right? There's a generational difference too. Yes, a lot of seniors look at doctors as authorities. Yes, huge generational differences too. And I think they cannot acknowledge that it's not 2005. Like, I do think that some of these things were definitely more of a woman's issue 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I could totally see that. Absolutely. And when I used to go to the doctor in the 2000s, I was always told to lose weight. Like, it's a very 2000s thing. But by the 2010s, it didn't happen anymore, you know? So I think that they're just kind of off, you know? Ananas says men go when something is a very big problem because, quote, a man can deal with pain. I don't think that's true, actually. I think women can deal with pain more. For the record, shh, don't tell anybody. Shh, don't tell anybody that I said that. I don't want to slip that out. I don't want to betray my men out there, but I think women can actually handle it better. Anyways, and women might go for more minor issues because they don't have the pride issue. Yes. Women are also more likely to ask for help in general. That could be race differences, personality differences. It could just be women are more communal in general. Again, these are all generalities, but it's a huge thing. Absolutely. Melanie says, "Bah, absolutely. I have food restriction issues and tend to be underweight. I didn't get diagnosed with my thyroid issues until I had severe issues." Yes. It can go both ways for sure. It's not a fatness issue. It's not a woman's issue. It's just a medical system issue. The medical system has problems and we need to work on it. It's a huge thing. You know, we need to work on it. That's all it is. It's a medical system problem. And I'm never going to be like, "You're totally wrong," and whatever. Like, some people have great experiences with doctors, some people have terrible experiences, some people have both. It's just a part of life. You know, it's complex. And that's what kills me about it. I've gotten the anxiety diagnosis several times. Yeah, totally. My doctor told me my T waves being inverted on EKG was anxiety. Then I finally got a stress echo and it said there are minor abnormalities with my heart, but I don't know what they are yet. Yeah. I mean, not every doctor's perfect either. So we have to like be proactive in our health. We have to look for second opinion. Oh, I just burped. Sorry. We have to do these kind of things because we can't view doctors as God or like as a savior or any of these things. We still have to take care of ourselves, and be skeptical, And I think in America, there's this idea that doctors just know everything. And that's not true. Doctors are human beings. They get things wrong sometimes. It doesn't mean they're evil or horrific or not worth going to. Like, let's not get too crazy, but it just means we need to take a more proactive role in our health. And I value that. I see a lot of other countries do that. And that's something we need more of in America. Okay. I was told to go see a psychiatrist when my kidney was dying and I had an autoimmune disease. Yeah. My late hubby saved me that time. That this was in 2004. Yeah. I mean, things change over time. And also, there are just medical issues in general, you know? I don't want to excuse my doctors, but I do go into appointments like a woman on fire. So they may, oh my God, that's funny. Um, Jordan wants to be saved. Interesting. Interesting. Some doctors are good and listen, but they are hard to find. Yeah. I'm sorry we have all learned the hard way to self-advocate. Cheers to everyone on their in their paths. Yes. I mean, it's tricky, but like I said, it bothers me that they tie in fatness with womanhood. It's not okay. To me, that is actually sexist. Like, it's really wrong. And I just don't appreciate that. I just don't. I really, really don't. I think it's wrong. And I want everybody to be as healthy as they can and all that kind of stuff and live their best quality of life that they can. So, yeah. I mean, people need to just like get a grip, you know? Get a grip. Basically. But yeah, that's kind of I guess that's all my comments. Gosh, guess we're getting towards the end. Do you guys have any other questions while I'm still here? I'll do like a 5-minute warning. I know Bot likes it when I do a warning. But let me know if you have any other questions or any other things you want me to talk about today. But yeah, this has been really amazing. So 5-minute warning. My favorite meal, oh my gosh, I eat weird because I work a lot. So, I mean, typical meal that I eat all the time would be like bacon and cheese and like a peep. I know that's crazy, but I do that a lot when I'm working because I have a physical job, and so it's like a good like breakfast for me. In terms of like favorite meal ever, like I love pizza. And I make a specific kind of pizza where it's like a cassava pizza because I can't tolerate wheat that much. So I make a cassava crust pizza. I love it. It's so good. I also love steak, those kind of things. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, I went to this one restaurant where they have beef fat fries and it's like this huge steak. And again, like sounds weird. It may not be everybody thinks I'm shorter than I am in real life, but I'm kind of a big guy. So I can eat a shit ton. Okay. And I can have like a huge steak. I love it. And those fries, and oh gosh, it was so good. That was just everything. Ooh. Bacon, cheese, and peeps. Yes, that's like a go-to. That was a go-to this March. I had that so much. And February. What are your summer goals? Health, food, weight, travel, exercise. I want to go back to California. I want to travel to California. One of my best friends from childhood is getting married. I want to go so bad. I'm gonna hope and pray and whisper in the wind that it will occur. Um, and weight-wise, just continue to lose. I'd like to be out of Mo by the end of summer for sure. Just be obese or even, basically by summer, that would be ideal. I don't know if that will happen, but we'll see. Um, I know, Goblin. Um, yeah, so around that, food-wise, like, I'll probably start limiting sugar a little bit as we get further away from winter. Nothing too drastic, but I think it's important to keep the nutrition higher. So, yeah, because I'm kinda getting over the candy winter side for me. I tend to crave it more when I'm feeling more hypo, and I'm kinda getting over it, so I'll probably lower it a little bit, nothing drastic. And exercise, just go to the gym, I'm gonna build muscle this summer, this spring and summer, and just keep all my stuff going. I'm a little bit less worried about my weight though, because I know I'm putting on muscle. So that'd be my goals for the summer. I may be going to CA. Ooh, nice. Nice. Oh my gosh, but yes, please. Thank you so much for not having Diet Coke anymore. So anyways, that'll be fun. I'd love to film with some of my friends in Cali if I go. I really, really wanna go though. Like, I need to stress that I'm trying to go. Um, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This is so much fun. Thank you so much. I'll be back next Friday for lives. We're gonna keep doing this. And I appreciate you guys so much for being here. This is really fun. This is a good way for me to interact with comments and stuff too. So yes, I will be back next Friday. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Talk soon. Bye.